The Arizona Humane Society is encouraging pet owners to put together a plan for what would happen to their pets if the human becomes sick with COVID-19. Steve Hansen is president and CEO of the Arizona Humane Society, and he joins me to talk more about this. And Steve, what kinds of plans are you talking about? Like, what should people be thinking about and planning for?
What we want to encourage people to do is think about what they would do with their animals if they had to go to the hospital. So if they're in an emergency situation and they're under a doctor's care outside of their home, how would their pets be cared for? One reason why we want to think about this carefully is because those pets have been exposed to the COVID-19 virus, and we do want to manage that exposure a little bit differently than if we were just boarding the animals in a boarding facility.
So does that mean that you are hoping that people will find family, friends, someone else to take them as opposed to having to put them somewhere else?
So the ideal situation would be to have a plan in place that would allow others to come to your home and take care of your animals for at least 14 days while you're gone. That would allow plenty of time if there's any residual virus that might be found on a coat, which isn't going to last anywhere near that long, or if we have, especially a cat, that there's some question could potentially carry a virus that would likely have passed as well. So ideally, you would want them to treat those animals as if they were exposed. So you would want somebody to come into the house, wash their hands accordingly, ideally use gloves, ideally use a mask, feed and take care of the animals and leave, and then return on a regular basis to take care of the pets in that setting. That's the ideal way to manage it so that you don't introduce those animals into another household, having come from a household that had the virus in the house.
So it sounds like you're asking folks to make sure that somebody has a key to their house and that they have enough food and other supplies for a couple of weeks for their animals in case they are not in their own home.
Exactly, and written directions. So how much does each animal eat? Some households, such as ours, have a number of animals and a number of pets. One of the dogs eats a special food. The other dogs don't. So just have directions on what to expect, what this particular animal needs. You may want to make sure they also realize, for example, our cats. If somebody came into our house, they would think we have one cat. We, in fact, have two, but the second cat would be nowhere to be seen the entire time they came and fed the cat. So, yeah, those directions are important. If there are any health concerns, that's important as well. The name and phone number of the veterinarian that manages the pets should be included. So anything that might be needed by your friends or family that are coming to your house if they can't actually ask you. So heaven forbid you're in a serious enough situation that you can't convey that information, that should all be easily available by the caregiver that's coming and going from your home.
What do we know about how the virus responds to and reacts with animals?
So that's a good question. There's a lot of evolving information about this particular coronavirus in companion animals as well as big cats in the news recently. So we do know that big cats can be infected, tigers and lions. We do know that in a research setting, cats can be infected with the virus and can transmit it to other cats. What we don't know is whether or not that transmission will happen naturally. We don't know whether cats are going to show any significant signs. Right now, there's no evidence that they do. We are not seeing an uptick of cats with upper respiratory disease coming into animal hospitals, so we don't believe that that's particularly likely. So the bottom line is, the real take-home message is there's no evidence that the virus currently can be transmitted from cats to people, but we want to be cautious, and we want to make sure that if that is something we find down the road, that we've prepared for it, but we right now don't have evidence. So if somebody is quarantining in their home, we also recommend that they quarantine themselves from the animals in the home.
How big of a concern is it that folks who maybe don't have somebody who can come and watch their pets if they themselves get sick, and you end up with a situation where you have a pet alone in a house, maybe doesn't have access to food or water?
So this is actually a serious concern. The Arizona Humane Society does over 7,000 cruelty investigations every year, and too often we come across situations in which an animal has been left in a home either accidentally or on purpose. Oftentimes it's a very sad situation where somebody may have passed in the house. and those animals get left for many days. They become severely dehydrated and emaciated. Hopefully we get to them before they've passed, but sometimes that actually happens. So it is a serious concern. We do need to make sure that we are also checking on each other. So we're checking in by phone or video conference, Zoom, and using other resources to make sure that we're communicating with our parents and our friends, especially those that are alone.
All right. That is Dr. Steve Hansen. He is president and CEO of the Arizona Humane Society. Steve, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.